And a good Saturday morning out there to all you football fans. Welcome to the final edition of the Saturday Morning Coaches Show for this 2025 season. Sorry for starting late, but this is Cornelius Neal alongside Coach Kincaid. As you know, we're both a bit road weary as Idabel made the trip north to Tulsa, taking on the Cascia Commandos. Things did not go the way we liked as Cascia comes away 42-7 victorious. And Coach, let me get your thoughts on last night's contest, and we'll get into these stats.
Yes, sir. First things first, congratulations to the Commandos. They played a really good game. They had a great defensive game plan. One that I don't think we've seen, in a while outside of Lincoln Christian. We really shot ourselves in the foot early. And it's hard to do that on the road. Our guys, we came out energized, we came out fighting, and just shot ourselves in the foot. 2 fumbles early on, and then follow that up after going down 14 with the couple interceptions. It's hard to put yourself in a hole like that. Offense struggled all night, and I'll take the blame for that. I could have done some different things, play calling wise, to kind of get the ball in the guys' hands a little bit differently. But Cascia had a really good scheme for us defensively, and our defense held up, a lot, most of the time, 21 and a half. And we could have negated that even more. We gave him the ball right there inside the 5-yard line after getting a stop early on. Gave it to him twice inside the 5-yard line, or actually in the first 2 minutes of the game. So, I'm the one thing I'm really proud of our kids. Looking at them, on the sideline and having to go through that senior pain, and that emotions from our seniors, that hurt me a little bit. Those kids have worked their butts off all year, all summer, their whole careers, and if I'm not mistaken, they may be the winningest class to come through in the 4-year career of Idabel. They've had a really great career, nothing to be ashamed of for them. Super proud of them and the underclassmen that stepped up and tried to fight for them, and it's a learning experience for those guys, and I hope that they take that to the chin and that they use this offseason to grow and learn and develop, and that's what we're going to do, really get back in the lab and go back to football 101 and show those guys, hey, man, here's what we got to do. We're going to take it all back to the basics of Little League. Hey, here's the zone step, here's the power, here's your read steps defensively. Hey, find the hip pocket and DBs and take it all back to basic fundamentals and teach it all back over slowly and surely, and hopefully build a lot of these young guys up, because we'll be young again next year. We may be even younger at some spots. So.
Yeah, absolutely, because there are certain spots you're going to have to replace. You're going to have to replace quarterback, and McCollum Dixon played receiver 3 years here at Idabel, and then finally had the chance to step in and be QB1, which I know we had looked for him to do that here in the last couple of years, but he finally had his chance. He had some really bright moments throughout the year, and then replacing, the running backs with Quincy Pond and Ja'Shawn Dixon, and then, there'll be guys to replace up front, but there's some talent waiting in the wings. So real quick, we're going to get into these stats offensively. The big thing for Idabel, 8 turnovers, 5 interceptions, 3 fumbles. Doesn't matter how talented a team is, you can't beat anybody with 8 turnovers. Leading rusher last night was McCollum Dixon, 15 carries for 45 yards. You got to include the bad snaps and things like that. Let's see, behind him, I know Kobe Hearn had 1 carry for 15. Jordan Lewis, 3 carries for 14. Pond had 1 carry for 2 yards. Titus Baker had 2 carries for 5 yards. Then he went down late. Ja'Shawn Dixon, 8 carries for 3 yards. He fumbled twice, lost a couple of fumbles. Passing, McCollum Dixon, 12 for 28. 172 yards, got the touchdown at the end, also threw 5 interceptions. I think one of them was tipped and intercepted by one of their linebackers. Leading receiver, Benny and Tiflaw, 8 catches, 147 yards, and the touchdown late. Jordan Lewis had 2 catches for 4 yards. Val Golston, 2 catches for 21 yards. And defensively, I know like your leading tackles. Let's see, Crew Corsi was up there. Jordan Lewis was up there. Quincy Pond as well. Corsi, Gio had a tackle for loss. Quincy Pond had a tackle for loss. Titus Baker had a tackle for loss. Bledsoe had a tackle for loss. And then Turf Monster also had one early on. As I don't know if it was something with that field, but they slipped. And we could jokingly give them a tackle for loss in the sheet and everything. So no football being over, if you got meetings ahead, so you can decide who makes all district. How's that work?
Yeah, so we'll go. I'll go up to Shakota Tuesday to go through the district meetings, and then obviously a couple of our seniors. I'm gonna fight for them to be all staters. I think I get three selections to put in there. So we'll talk as a staff to see who's getting put in for all state for this year as our senior class. But I think I have a pretty good idea as the 3 guys who will go in for that. Probably McCollin, Chris, and Benny for sure.
Okay.
Would be my 3 choices there for those guys. I'm gonna fight hard for those guys at district meetings. McCollin Dixon was the leader of this team, and he showed that really, really well. And I think that it's 2 quarterbacks ahead of him in district play in terms of yardage, I believe. With Trey Burleson from Holland and Carter Rickey from Lincoln Christian. So, if we can get him a first-team utility guy, because obviously, man, what he did on the ground and in the air for us was, incredible. He led us and kept us in a lot of freaking ball games, So, we'll go to bat for them. I'll go to bat for them always, forever. And get them some awards. A lot of those kids on our team will earn some awards from district meetings. So I'm looking forward to that. My first district meeting with all the coaches there. So it'll be interesting to see how that goes.
Yep, that's how generally that's how your all district teams are selected. Your newcomers of the year, your players of the year on offense, defense, special teams, etc. I know we got a short break. No, we'll stay right here. So, next thing I was going to ask you about that I know had been discussed. I know next year we'll be in a new. I think we're staying in 3A, correct? And then they'll redistrict. So, do you have any clue on who's staying, who's going in 3A, and who do you anticipate possibly being in our district next year?
Yeah, looking at it, I don't think the numbers have been fully released yet. The OSSA has been behind. We're originally supposed to get everything at the December clinic, the winter clinic in December. But now I heard that we're gonna get everything in February, so it may be delayed and pushed back a little bit. I think that we're gonna be 3A for sure. I just don't know how much we'll mix up our district. If anything. Lincoln could go north, and Cascia or somebody like that could come down to our district. It's a, minuscule 15 minutes or so difference in terms of travel there. It depends on who's on the board for the district meetings. I know there was three out of 5 coaches on the district board from the Northeast District. So, every time they proposed Lincoln to go north to balance the powers, it was always it was always voted no. Those coaches up there said, no way, Lincoln's not coming up here. They're going down there to that district.
No, hey, let them stay up there and fight with the teams in that northeast quadrants. Do you anticipate anybody maybe moving up or down? I know there was talking maybe Lincoln moving up in either direction, up or down. Once you get everything redistricted, and have you heard any little whispers of, hey, this school may be moving up or moving down into 3A or up into 3A from 2A? I know Kingston's close to that line, to that 3A line. They're one of the bigger 2A schools. Excuse me. As is Marlowe and Washington. They're one of the bigger 2A schools. I don't think Washington will move up to 3A. But I think Kingston has a chance to go up to 3A this season. So it'll be interesting to see.
kind of how this thing plays out. Kind of how a couple of these schools go up or down. I know there's a pending lawsuit that's kind of been pending for almost like a whole year now that, private schools can just play at their ADM regardless of success factor. They just play at their school size, which would put all the 3As now, all the 3A private schools down to 2A, which would probably be best case scenario for the state. But, it'd be, that would probably bump up like Washington and Kingston and Marlowe and those bigger 2A school public schools. So, 3A would be the place to be if that happened. If private schools went down to play their ADM at 2A, because most of them have 2A numbers.
Right.
So it would be, the ideal situation. But, knowing the OSSA and private schools, they're locked in closer than, two brothers a year apart. So
right.
It's probably not going to happen. They'll probably, win the lawsuit and win, whatever they want to do, they can keep it. So.
Yeah. So if that were to happen, would there be a possibility of, say, a Hugo moving back into our district? Because I know they're 2A1, or would they stick in 2A1, or how do you see that happening?
Yeah, I mean, it would depend on how many 3A teams went down to 2A and where Hugo was in terms of ADM numbers. And so if they were closer to the top 10 2A1 schools, biggest 2A1 schools, I could see them moving up.
And they would likely put us in our district.
Likely put them in our district, but I could probably see. I don't see them having those type of numbers in ADM, so right. They'll probably stay down in 2A1.
And then what other 2A1s that are in this area that stand a shot at moving? Wouldn't Heavener be up in that mix as well?
Nah, they don't have the ADM to be up there. It's a lot of. It's nobody in this area,
Really,
for us, we're the standalone 3A school in Southeast Oklahoma primarily, and so it's odd, Eufaula is the closest one, Chakotah. There was a 3A school that was somewhat close that had low numbers that it might drop down to 2A, which may bump up a different 2A1 school, but.
Right.
The closest one would be Kingston that we'd get in our district if they were to bump up to 3A.
Okay. And then, I've caught some of the Eufaula broadcast, and they talk like they are going to move down to 2A. So we'll see how all of this plays out. And, let's go ahead. We've gotten into stats, and let's take a quick break. We'll go over scores from across 3A and then across our area. And, we'll be back. You're listening to the Saturday Morning Coaches Show right here on Idabel's First 96.7 KBEL. Welcome back to the Saturday Morning Coaches Show right here on Idabel's First 96.7 KBEL. Hey, don't forget we're on Spotify as well. So a lot of these shows that we record and air on Fridays and Saturdays, you can go back and catch them on Spotify. I'm not sure what we're going to do as far as basketball season, as far as some of these things going on Spotify, but definitely do plan on getting both Coach Griffin and Coach Thurgill in here at some point, but we'll talk about that later on. So going into last night's scores we'll start there in Class 3A. If I can pull this up here momentarily. Did have a couple of teams out of our district. We'll just go down the line here. Kingfisher beat Lone Grove 43-36 last night. That was in Lone Grove. Heritage Hall beat Seminole 52-34. Holland Hall edged out Berry Hill. I think Berry Hill led for a pretty good chunk of that game, and then Holland Hall came back and won that one 28-27. Perkins Tryon came down to Plainview and beat them 48-14. Sulphur, they took it to Anadarko 63-12. Inola beat Chakotah 38-20, and then Lincoln Christian doing Lincoln Christian things. They shut out Jay 56-0. Now I have the bracket. Let me see here. That is filled out. So next week's matchups in Class 3A, you will have Heritage Hall. They'll host Inola next week. Lincoln Christian will host Kingfisher. Sulphur will host Holland Hall. That'll be an interesting trip for Holland Hall, making that trip basically into South Central Oklahoma to take on the Sulphur Bulldogs. And then Cascia Hall will host again. They'll get to host Perkins Tryon. And that'll be a 7 o'clock kickoff up in Tulsa. Good luck to everybody involved. Locally, closer to home, the lone team out of the area to win was Broken Bow. They hung 70 on Wagner. They win 70-35. They will advance. They will get to host Weatherford next week. That is a 7 o'clock kickoff Friday, Memorial Stadium in Broken Bow. Let's see here. Wyandotte beat Valiant 21-19. I saw Valiant scored late. Went for two, didn't get it. Went for the onside kick and didn't get it. So, disappointing end of the season for the Bulldogs. Antlers falls to Salina 48-12. And then Hugo was in the Tulsa area last night. They lost to Metro Christian, final score 42-8. So, that's going to wrap it up for a lot of these local schools, area schools. Will be getting ready for basketball season. And also, before I forget, the Idabel youth football teams, they're in playoff mode right now. Their games are in Broken Bow. I think there's a game that just started at 9:15. Coach Galloway actually sent me the schedule of what's happening today. If I can pull that up real fast, I want to say the 6 and under, they will play Broken Bow at 1:15. The 8 and under will play Valiant at 10:45 in Broken Bow. And then the 10 and under scheduled to play, but I can't see how far down and what time they'll play. So good luck to all the Idabel youth football teams involved today. Also good luck to the Idabel Warrior United cheer squads and the powerlifting teams. They're in Tulsa right now getting ready to compete. And definitely want to wish everybody best of luck involved in as far as that goes. And got some college football to get into. Big game up in Durant, the Southeastern East Central rivalry. If you have never been affiliated with Southeastern or East Central, you're missing a doozy of a rivalry because, those schools are about an hour apart. How'd you do against them at your time at Southeastern?
And I actually went 1-4 against them in my time there. In 3 of the 4 years, we were the better team, but in a rivalry game, that never matters. So, it was really unfortunate to lose to them, 3 times, but I won the first one and then lost the next 3. So, it's a rivalry game that's, Broken Bow Idabel. It's a 110-plus year rivalry. It's been going on forever, and, it's one that you definitely want to be there for. It's a hostile environment. It's at Southeastern today. They're starting at 12. I want to be there, but, that's getting out of there, getting there right at game time, leaving right now. So, good luck to all my guys that are seniors now that were my freshmen when I was getting finished up playing. Big shout out to my little dog, Dre. I'm proud of you, man.
That game, if I'm not mistaken, will be available to watch on YouTube, so you'll get to hear the voice of Southeastern, Jay Lindley. Me and him go back. We actually had some of our media classes together, and we worked together on baseball and softball broadcast and like coaching shows and stuff like that. That's how I got my start. He actually got me my first job. I worked over at KMAD in Medill. It was the AM side. So helped him with some football and did some Medill football for a while, and also did some basketball coverage out of that area. Kingston in their old gym, some of Medill games, and I think even some solo games as well. So good luck to everybody out there. Once again, 12 o'clock kickoff, Paul Laird Field at Spend Life Wisely Stadium. Have you had a chance to talk to Marquis lately?
No, I haven't talked to Marquis in a minute, man. I know that I've seen his post and seen that he's been doing well up there. So, he's in that what's that thing called, red shirt phase. Yeah, he's in that red shirt phase where, he's working. I talked to him 2 weeks ago there at the game. Sat there and talked with him. Told me he had to do some punishment because he missed a morning workout.
Nice.
And he told me, he said, "Man, I'll never miss another morning workout again, man." It was bad. So, I'm glad that he's going through that and experiencing that. It's one that a lot of young guys do have to go through and understand. But, super proud of Marquis, super proud of Ravion. I think Ravion got a carry last weekend. So, hopefully we see a little bit more of Ravion this weekend, and hopefully we see some Trail this weekend. A lot of those Division I guys are playing some ball right there, so it'd be interesting to see how that goes. And then obviously Warrell up there playing at Baker's University, hooping up there, and we'll see Zaretta in track in the spring. So
yep, I saw Warrell had 11 in a game here earlier this week, so we'll definitely have the chance to talk about that. Also, Mary Carden up at University of Cincinnati. They haven't gotten out to the best of starts. I got to see her play once on the ESPN Plus app. So we'll keep you updated on when they play again. And we're about to switch over to basketball season here at Idabel's First 96.7 KBEL. I know the boys have a game a week from today down in Captain Shreve, down in the Shreveport area. Hopefully I'll get to make that trip and check out the Idabel Warrior basketball teams. That we're going to definitely try and get Coach Griffin, Coach Threadgill, Coach Threet, get them in here. The Idabel Winter Classic will be in tournament form again right after Christmas. And it's supposed to be a really, really stacked lineup. We even have a team from Australia coming in to make that trip. So that, being said, we'll definitely have that schedule out. I'm trying to find an updated version because there are some games that are here and there listed and we need to get a composite schedule. Good college football action today. You got Clemson and Louisville played last night. Minnesota and Oregon played last night, but highlighted games on the schedule for today. You got Wisconsin and Indiana, South Carolina at Texas A&M. Texas A&M is really good this year. Notre Dame at Pittsburgh. You got Michigan at Northwestern. Iowa at USC at 2:30. The big one at 2:30 is Oklahoma at Alabama. Will R. Mason Thomas play that'll be remain to be seen. Also, you got Florida at Ole Miss at 6 o'clock. I know you're a big Gator fan. How are the Gators looking against Ole Miss?
I think they'll be all right. We'll have a chance to compete. Letting a lot of young guys play in this situation and how things are going for us this season, the Florida Gators. So, I think we'll do all right. And I think it'll be a competitive game. Hopefully, it's a competitive game. Ole Miss is a really, really good team. Playoff team looking like. And then Alabama and OU. All the Sooner fans out here. Good luck today. Alabama's gonna be tough.
Yeah, absolutely. We during the regular season we've had a pretty good record against them. I think the last time we played at Bama was 2003 is what I want to say. That's the year that's coming to mind. Hopefully Material's a little more healed up with that thumb. Run that ball with Robinson and Torrey Blaylock, and it's terrible to look at their depth chart and their injury list every week because I think they have R. Mason Thomas is doubtful. So, well, not doubtful, questionable. You got questionable, doubtful, out, and probable. So, hopefully some of those guys are able to take the field today. And that's a 2:30 kickoff. I want to say that's on ABC. And, we'll get you ready for some Idabel Warrior and Lady Warrior basketball coverage here really soon here in the next week. I know Idabel plays at Captain Shreve. And then after Thanksgiving is things when they really get good and started. I know we'll host Hugo early in the season. I think the boys have a trip to Paris to take on North Lamar. I know we have a trip to Texarkana to take on Pleasant Grove. So we'll have that schedule out. I'm just trying to find a updated version of it before I post it to the KBL Sports Facebook page. We'll get a chance to talk with Coach Griffin, new coaches Threadgill, and see how everybody's doing, how things are moving along. I think the boys will have a pretty good team this year. You bring back a Baker Hoskins, you'll have Chris Bledsoe in the mix again. Jordan Lewis had a pretty good year last year. We were just one win away from making state. So I know you're not going to be involved with basketball this year, right?
No, sir.
Okay. You'll probably we'll see you at some games, though. So,
absolutely.
Get ready to lace up those gym sneakers. And that's going to do it Like to thank everybody for tuning in, and you'll hear this on Spotify. And it's been a great run this season. And once whatever information we'll find out, we'll share it on the KBL Sports Facebook page. So we're going to get out of here. Thanks for tuning in to the Saturday Morning Coaches Show right here on Idabel's First 96.7 KBEL.